It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here. I need to start with a couple of things, prefaces, and then I'll explain what I'm doing. I gather that the description of what I'm doing didn't even make it to the program. The short version of it is I'm going to be, the title of my talk, which you saw in some versions of it, is Tunisia Still Survives. I'll explain where that came from. But it's my Jeffersonian prism on Tunisia's struggle for democracy. I'll explain where that came from in just a moment. But let's see, I'll make sure I'm getting this right. Okay, that first image is of my mentor, who many of you knew, Professor Ruhi Ramzani, who taught at the University of Virginia since the early 1950s. He himself had fled from, he had been targeted for death by the Tudeh party in Iran when he fled, and he was one of those people who found great satisfaction and joy teaching at Mr. Jefferson's University, a place that he dedicated several of his books, his great books on Iranian foreign policy. He did 2 books on Jefferson and struggles for freedom around the world as well, but he was very proud of serving at Mr. Jefferson's University. Okay, this next image, which is a little bit dim. Are you hearing me okay? Okay. Okay, good. That's an image of me doing a little lighthearted here. It's the end of a long day, so I thought we just added these slides in here a moment ago. So I'm adjusting on the fly here, and I promise I'll keep it to 12 minutes. This was Jefferson's birthday. I'd just been up there to see Jason Rezaian, the Washington Post correspondent who had suffered terribly in prison in Iran under the most bizarre set of charges. He was one of my favorite correspondents from Iran, doing essentially many of the same things that I've been doing, trying to help both countries understand each other and find bridges between the 2 countries. And to the radicals over there, that was not real popular, and he was in prison terribly for it. When he was in prison in Iran, as he revealed to his audience at Monticello back on Jefferson's birthday, his wife, who had been released previously, she managed to get him some books, and he's reading a book, I kid you not, on Jefferson and religious freedom from Evin Prison. So there's a book idea for you. We can call it Meeting Jefferson in Tehran. I don't think that would go real well on the bestseller list. It's not the same thing as Lolita, but it was a marvelous talk, and it was also very moving, and he did suffer terribly, and one of my great people that I admire. Now about me, on the way back down, as I often do, I stop and visit with Mr. Jefferson's statue at the bottom of Monticello, and I was explaining to him that I'm finally getting back to finishing a thesis I started a long time ago, built around Jefferson's first sentence in the Declaration of Independence. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind. In many ways, that's what this conference is about today. Tunisians, people in the Arab world, are saying, what do we need to do to get the United States to pay attention to our struggles for freedom? Well, it's you have a decent respect to the opinions of mankind, particularly the opinions of humankind here in the United States, and that's a struggle that Jefferson would very much recognize. Mr. Jefferson wasn't real impressed. I was excited that I was bringing it to a conclusion. He didn't say anything. But then it's kind of, you see the glum look on his face. But then we moved on to the subject where I said I was really impressed to discover that when he and John Adams, Jefferson was the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, John Adams, the secondary author. They had great correspondence even after years of political rivalry, which is an interesting model there for rivalries in the Arab Spring. But Jefferson and Adams had a magnificent correspondence, which did include lots of discussions in the last 15 years of their lives about revolutions that they witnessed around the world. I'll have a few things to say about that in a moment. Anyway, I told Jefferson the story that Mr. Adams, when he died, they both died on the same day, 50 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I kid you not, I'm not making that up, it actually happened. They both consciously waited for the 4th, 1826. Jefferson actually died first. Adams didn't know that. When Adams died, the wording goes, and it's apparently from a fairly reliable source, his last comments were Jefferson still survives. When Jefferson heard that, he laughed. He says, see, he was wrong again. But then I got to telling him, I'm using that metaphor as a way that I'm planning on doing a book. I'm planning on doing a book on Jefferson and Revolution then, Jefferson and Revolution now. And in all my teachings of the Arab Spring, and I'll talk about this in a moment, I spent a lot of time talking about Jeffersonian observations on where these revolutions came from, where they were going, what the problems that they had. But then I told him, I said, it's been really discouraging lately. I haven't taught the course since 2017. We had COVID, a series of other things. The revolutions had petered out. And then I told him about my great despair over what's happened in Tunisia just in the past 2 years and the past few months. And that was hard to take, and I thoroughly depressed myself. And then I heard a whispered voice behind my ear, Tunisia still survives. And that was, and I laughed. Then it was my turn to laugh. And then it was my turn to cry. Because I'm aware of Jefferson's words and observations on that. And let's dig into that a little bit. First of all, before I get in, what I'm going to be doing is I'll give a series of observations. I could spend a lot of time talking about Tunisia, but let's do the Jefferson prism. That's something you need to bring to the conference here. And I'm grateful to be here. So many of I've been following the Center for the Study of Islam and Democracy's work since its founding. I've used your materials from so many of your publications. Aziz Sajidina, your founding chairboard, was actually a great help to me when I did a book on Iran. His work on helping me understand Islam and human rights, understanding the struggles within Islam inside Iran was magnificent. Also learned a lot about his former classmate, somebody named Khamenei. Great person to work with. Another leading light from Center for the Study of Islam and Democracy, one of your board members, Akbar Ahmad. I chanced to see his 2010 film documentary, A Journey into America, where he took a group of students around America, including a stop at my university, at the University of Virginia, and he had them looking up at the Jefferson statue, and I'm going to show it to you right here. This is the Jefferson statue that he had them looking up at. Statue that I had walked by every day for decades. And he had the students looking up at it, and he saw the names of God on that. Well, this is just one of the themes that's on the side of that statue. And as you can, I think you can make that out there. It says religious freedom, 1786, God, and then the names of God in different faiths: God, Jehovah, Brahma, Atma, Ra, Allah, Zeus. And Professor Ahmad didn't quite have the story right as to, he didn't know anything about the sculptor who did that. But anyway, I was dumbfounded when I saw that. And I started asking everybody I knew. I asked Professor Ramzani, Larry Savage, I said, does anybody know why the names of God are on the side of the Jefferson statue? And that's one of those things where another reason why I'm grateful for this center and for scholars associated with this, that he brought that to my attention, and then I had done a series of articles on this sculptor, Moses Ezekiel, and his work as a Jewish sculptor, and for many Jewish people in America, that statement of religious freedom was one of the key reasons. Jefferson, when he died, wanted to be remembered for three great contributions: not being president, not being Secretary of State, but for authoring that Virginia statute on religious freedom, for authoring the American Declaration of Independence, and then thirdly, founding the University of Virginia. For him, for the struggle for democracy to survive, you had to have an educated citizenry, and that was why all three of these things went together. I don't really have time to talk about this, but I have also had the misfortune to be around UVA during some of its darkest moments. Some of you may remember what this is all about. Again, that statue, which had the names of God on the side of it, celebrating among the themes on that statue of religious freedom, you had the neo-Nazis. I had just finished teaching one of my Arab Spring courses in the summer. I had a group of 20 students, including 12 of them from China. Talk about an amazing course, teaching a course on the Arab Spring to kids from China who can't even talk to each other because they're a bit afraid of each other. It was an amazing experience. But the day after that course ended, this happened. You had the neo-Nazis marching on UVA, and as they came, they were aiming at the Jefferson statue. That's where they went to. And they were screaming, "Jews will not replace us. You will not replace us," having no idea that the man who did the sculpture was a Jewish young man. That led to this incredible confrontation at the base, which I was there that night, and there's a group of 10 students. There wasn't many students around then. A group of students, something later called Black Lives Matter, somewhat like that, and they were extremely exposed and in danger. There was one university administrator there who got speared coming to their aid. Thankfully, it didn't break out into violence, but that was an extremely dangerous. Think about the irony of this. This is happening underneath the Jefferson statue. Again, don't have more time to go into this, but one of the things that happened just a few days later, that same student group, in their trauma, and they suffered, and some of the girls were really hurt, broken bones, concussions, they put together a list of demands And their first demand was, in the original draft, was to tear the statue down. They too had no idea what was on that statue. What was interesting is that one of my students from a previous semester, a young lady from Jordan, very young lady, thank you, she put together the observation that, before we tear it down, maybe we might want to study what's on it. And I know I went off in this direction instead of the other direction that I was going to go to, but what I can tell you, at least as a broad outline, I'm doing a book on the subject, but there's a series of what's interesting about Jefferson. Love him or leave him, for all his faults, he, in many ways, in that Declaration of Independence, set forth a series of ideals, a statement of who we aspired to be, not necessarily who we were, but those we're still wrestling and still struggling with that. There's so many, like I said, Jefferson observed revolutions for the next 50 years of his life. He was exhilarated, he was thrilled. I think he would have been thrilled by the Arab Spring and by Tunisia, the great achievements that